Feeling a little unsettled and stressed with the way things are in our world? Experience the peace of Jesus with Finding Peace, our 5-day devotional. Visit purposely.com to sign up. Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hey, this is Jen. You're listening to the Bible for Busy People, where this week we are talking about the 5 women who are named in Jesus' lineage, his matriarchs, if you will. And today we are talking about Rahab. Rahab is another person of the Bible that we might feel like we already have figured out. She did bad things, but then she did the right thing. And I feel like that's what I was always taught. But is it that simple? Let's look into it. So we're in Joshua 2 today. In verse 1, it says, Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go, look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, Look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab. Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land. But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. You may catch up with them. But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under stalks of flax that she had laid out on the roof. So the men set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death. Our lives for your lives, the men assured her. If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us this land. So she let them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. She said to them, Go to the hills so the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way. And they go on to do exactly that. They make her promise that she will tie a ribbon in the window so that they know where to find her, and to bring her whole family there so they're together in her house when the Israelites attack. So Jericho was a city in Canaan. And again, let's consider Rahab's position. She likely was in a patriarchal society that didn't allow many women to own property, run a business, or move freely. We talked about this yesterday. She was an anomaly. She owned a tavern, or an inn, is what I believe the original language says from one of my articles that I read. She had freedom. She made her own money. And she was, as was said, a prostitute. Now, some people argue that that word might mean different things, that, again, she might have just been a tavern keeper or an innkeeper. We don't really know, but all signs seem to point to she was a prostitute. Now, Bible Hub's Study Bible says Rahab's profession and her role in the narrative highlight God's grace and the inclusion of Gentiles in his plan. Rahab lived in a city that was classified as wicked. She also had pull with the king, and she potentially knew classified information depending on who frequented her establishment. Rahab was smart and savvy. And you know what? She recognized the men right away. I don't know if that's because they were new in town or because of what they wore that made her realize they were Israelites, or maybe she was seeking them out. Maybe she was waiting for them. I like to think it's the last one. God put her in a unique position to be able to be what the Israelites needed to know what was going on in Jericho and safely make it back. The Israelites really needed to feel confident going into this. I think they felt nervous and afraid, but they went in and she told them the truth, that their hearts were melting in fear because of the Israelites. They knew what God had done for them and they were terrified. Rahab was savvy. She quickly formed a plan and went with it. I don't know how she managed to make that up as she went along, hiding the men and telling the lie. Maybe she had planned all that out. I don't know. But I get the sense that she was just savvy and on it and ready to go. She had discernment. She was honest with the spies, but sneaky with the king. And again, we talked about how people in the Bible had to use means of deceit or trickery sometimes to be able to do what was most righteous or most faithful at the end of the day. And Rahab had faith. She declares God as the true God, even though she lives in a polytheistic culture in Jericho. Now later in Joshua 6, in verse 25, it says, "But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho. And she lives among the Israelites to this day." And of course, her being a part of Jesus' lineage tells us that she got married and she had children there. Hebrews 11:31 honors her for her faith, for welcoming the spies, and notes that she was not killed with those who were disobedient. I read this as, she was obedient. She knew the truth and she did God's will. She was prepared and she came up with a plan maybe and ran with it right away, but she knew that these men were coming and she knew what she was going to do when they got there. Was she perfect? No. Like all of us, she was not perfect. Like everyone else in the Bible, except for Jesus, she was not perfect. Was she doing the best she could in a society where she was without power and without a lot of options? Absolutely. Our obedience to God is a sign of faith. How is your obedience these days? If it's maybe lacking, how is your trust in God? I'll admit I am working on my trust in God at this season of my life, but I'm learning that I can be obedient whether or not I feel in my heart that things are going the way that I want them to. I can still choose to obey because I know that God is working all things for good. And I know that there's probably something later down the line that I may not even see right now that God is doing to fulfill his purpose in my life. So anyway, that's the thought I have for you today. I will talk with you again tomorrow about another woman in Jesus' lineage.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.
Thanks for listening. We just wanted to take a minute to let you know that just like you and your family, Purposely is also part of a family, the Krista Family of Ministries. Krista helps kids and teens learn and grow in their faith at King Schools and Miracle Ranch Camp. And Krista shares Jesus with people in the poorest, most remote places through World Concern. Krista Senior Living is a community of love and care, and Krista Media is a place of hope on the radio. God is changing lives through these 5 ministries, and Krista is on mission to share the good news of Jesus. To learn more, visit Krista.org.